Hello, my name is Andy Osheroff, and I'm the manager of USM's Career and Employment Hub. And we're very excited today that Northern Light Health is going to be joining us for our career talk. And they have a brief presentation and just to kind of talk about their organization and what the opportunities are available to USM students. And so with that, let me just kick it over to Kendra and Chris to talk about Northern Light Health.
How's it going? My name is Chris Willett. I am a talent acquisition specialist for Northern Light Health. Some wild times with COVID, but I was actually one of the first onboarded employees, fully remote in that process. But it's been a great trip with Northern Light Health. Lots of accommodations, but I'm actually back in an office setting based out of Inland now, and I'll turn it over to introduce Kendra Jewett.
Sure. Again, so my name is Kendra. I am the nurse residency recruiter for Northern Light Health, and I recruit specifically for that nurse population across the system. But of course, we also recruit for a variety of positions, so we'll talk to those as well. I've been with the organization since August of last year. I'm working remote temporarily, but hopefully in the office as well soon.
Right, and I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen here so that we can get started. All right, and so through this presentation, we're hoping to let you know who Northern Light Health is, why you should look at careers in healthcare through us, why you should pursue that career in healthcare and how you can do that, as well as what programs are available to further your career once you're hired. And so Northern Light Health, we improve the health of people and communities that we serve. That is our mission. And our vision is to be a national leader in healthcare. And we will do that through the values of integrity, respect, compassion, and accountability. And so that's the core of who we are. That really makes up, Northern Light Health, as well as all of our member organizations. And the reason why I say that is because Northern Light Health is actually an overall larger organization made up of smaller member organizations dispersed throughout the state of Maine, from as far north as Presque Isle with A.R. Gould down to Mercy Hospital in Portland, and kind of dispersed areas in between from Maine Coast and Ellsworth, even Eastern Maine Medical Center in Bangor, and Inland, as I mentioned, which is in Waterville, and a few others. And that's not the only services that we provide. Locations that we have are just strictly hospitals. We also have these services here with home health and hospice. We have work health laboratories, pharmacies, our foundation. So as you can see, there's a number of sites, locations, products, services that we provide to the communities here in Maine. And we are a nonprofit organization. So everything that we generate, goes right back into our services and the communities that we serve, which means a great deal to me personally as an employee. And Northern Light Health is one of the largest employers in Maine. And believe it or not, we actually employ over 12,000 system-wide. So it's a phenomenal organization to be a part of. And I think a lot of these employees would absolutely agree. And as we move over to some of the top position needs, this is where I'm going to turn it over to Kendra because she's much more knowledgeable about these things. But as you can see, we have certified nursing assistants, or otherwise known as CNAs, medical assistants or MAs, and patient service representatives, as well as nurses or RNs. And we do have other programs as well, such as sponsorship programs, which actually pay for our current employees or to be employees to actually go back to school while they're working, be paid for the work that they do, but not incur the costs of their education. So we actually pay their education as they go through these programs. And then ultimately after graduation, they're moved into a program of which they are newly certified or licensed in. And so actually I'll let Kendra go forth and talk a bit more about the RN sponsorship.
Sure. And in general, with regard to these positions before we get there, thank you, Chris, is, the beautiful thing about Northern Light Health is that, whether you are looking for the clinical aspect, a lot of these positions that we note are clinical. And when people naturally think of a hospital, that's what they think of. That's what I always thought of. But just like any other business, this organization and all of our unique member organizations really have so much more encompassed, whether that is going to be your professional side from the business administrative side, the IT side, right down through that clinical, vein. So, the misconception with healthcare is that because the need is great in the clinical format, that's the only place where you can secure jobs regularly. So that's one misconception we really do like to overcome. With regard to our sponsorship program for nursing, we do have a wonderful program. If you had ever looked at our website before, it was called Work to Grow. Now it's strictly called our sponsorship. It is eligible for folks who are in a nursing program and who are at least juniors into that program. You would be eligible to, if selected for the position, it's a rather lengthy application process, but well worth it. Because you would be eligible to work 16 hours a week as a CNA while going to nursing school, but be paid as a full-time 40-hour-a-week employee. So those additional hours would be paid to you, whether to go to school or to help balance the needs of your home life and financial needs while going to school. Typically, there's a commitment, of course, to work for us afterward with the sponsorship program. But as to Chris's point, it helps pay for your future loans as you're going to school, secures you that position, and also allows you to network within our hospital before you transition to that new nursing role. So that's one of those programs. Chris, do you want to highlight our other, I believe, MA and CNA programs?
Yeah, so essentially, and thank you for that. Essentially, our CNA and MA programs essentially work the same as the RN programs, where you will be, accepted into the program. You would obtain a position with one of our member organizations, and while you work, you're also going to school, and we would pay that. So it would be your tuition, your books, and even uniforms. If those are something that you need, those are provided to you. And so it's an amazing opportunity, and depending on which, so I believe the CNA, the MA program, it may only be a year commitment up to, I think, what was the commitment for nursing, Kendra?
That's a 5-year commitment. Yeah.
And I think CNA may be 2 or 3. But so it varies a bit depending on the position, but regardless, it provides that opportunity and professional growth that so many, care about, not only just being employed, but, where can I go from here?
Right.
Starting at a job and being employed is wonderful, obviously, especially through these times, and healthcare, it's certainly needed. However, everybody, I think, likes to think of being able to grow within their organization or being able to move around. And that's actually another point that I'd like to just make quickly with Northern Light Health through member organizations. If you're going through a different stage in life and your family or et cetera, you might be moving. You don't necessarily have to just quit your job just because you're moving to a different area of Maine. So let's say you're currently working at AR Gould in Presque Isle, but you're actually looking to move down to the Portland area. We can actually look at doing a transfer or just have you reapply into that system and then just reassign you into a different member organization. So there's a lot of options and flexibility that comes with working for a large organization such as Northern Light.
And Chris, that was a great point. You almost stole the words out of my mouth with that, because not only is it the idea that you can change physical locations, but you can change your career path and that ladder to really customize the needs of you and your family, whatever that situation may look like. So even if it is, you really want something that's a day shift to a night shift, or a role that is going to maybe engage you in a different way, you can surely do that. And we promote that professional development within our organization. And if not through a structured program like Chris and I had mentioned, also through tuition reimbursement eligibility. And oh goodness, we have a member on our team. She started in transport, helping coordinate any transports that do need to occur between facilities via ambulance, and is now working as a recruiter. So that was within a 6-month time. When she was eligible, she was able to internally transfer. So, we do see that frequently. Openness.
Absolutely. We also see, we're actually going to be celebrating tomorrow, I believe, length of service. And we have some employees, of course, 5, 10, 15, but also 20, 30, and even in upwards of 40 years having been employed by Northern Light Health. So that speaks to, not only the number of positions that you can be employed in, but also the longevity of a career and the ability for you to grow internally, or to, as Kendra mentioned, change positions, change member organizations, and still grow and achieve the things that you have for goals and objectives in your own career.
Right. Absolutely. All right, so I think we can go to the next slide. Perfect. So for those in nursing school, this is my little plug about the nurse recruitment, is that we do have a robust nurse residency program, and this is separate from that sponsorship. So our nurse residency program is an opportunity once you get outside of your academic studies, once you graduate with your nursing degree, to go ahead and really have as much structure and support in that first year of clinical practice. These are full-time positions and full-time jobs, but the additional continuing education commitment of Northern Light Health to our nurses is really quite strong. So what we do is allow one of your shifts per month, so that's a 12-hour dedication off the floor for everyone with less than 1 year of experience, to go ahead and continue learning and growing, because so much of your skills is based on practice. So by doing things like simulations, by working with mentorship from tenured nurses to gain experience and know-how, as well as work together with your peers who are sometimes just as lost as you are in that phase and struggling, to learn from each other, to ask questions, and to work collaboratively on evidence-based practice projects we do, to really just deepen your level of understanding, recognize who to go to within the organization for questions, and to feel as confident as possible in your first year. These positions, just like any of our other full-time permanent positions, are benefit eligible. And so it's a great opportunity, especially this year where clinical times may have been limited, some facilities weren't allowing them, and a lot of online simulation happened, to just have that additional support as you go into that first year of that practice again. So we do have postings available online now for those graduating in December. And if you aren't quite there yet, or if you decide you want to go into nursing, and we'll have to think about it, we do have applications open as early as the month you start your final semester. So if you graduate in May, that'd be January of that final year, you could apply and secure a position. We have other opportunities as well with regard to placements and things like that. And again, variety of locations. So if that's something you're interested in, you can always contact us or search on the careers website, which we will surely highlight here shortly.
Yeah, and Kendra is the professional when it comes to RNs and all your RN needs. So you can see at the bottom left-hand portion of this slide her contact info. So don't be shy. Kendra's phenomenal and very knowledgeable on this. She'll definitely be able to answer any questions you have.
Well, thank you. All right, so the applying online and the career search itself, if you are interested in Northern Light Health, and really this will be helpful for anywhere you do apply. These steps are pretty important, but of course our plug is for Northern Light Health. If you want to get to know more about us or see what available opportunities there are now, you can go to our careers website, which is careers.northernlighthealth.org. Actually, what we can do is, after we go through this slide, maybe show a quick share of our website if we can, Chris.
Yeah, actually pull it up
things.
So I can slide it.
Oh, yeah, slide it over and I'll just talk through it. Great. So this is our careers website. It will, give you the latest and greatest about Northern Light Health. If you do already have a career profile that you've created with us, you can view existing applications there under the search bar. Or if you're new to our site, you can actually click view all. And that's where I'll have us go, Chris, to see what is available. Now, there's a lot out here because, again, we do have 10-member hospitals now. So if you know some parameters that are going to be important to you, you can search through a variety of those drop downs, whether the most recent postings by company, which is in our world, the location or member hospital. You can look by shift if you want something that's perhaps days, or if you're a night owl and want to do that too. The schedule itself of whether it's full-time, part-time, or per diem, or even temporary, which may be a 10-week stint, something during the summer perhaps, so that you have some idea of what you're looking for. And then last, by category. So this is where you can differentiate, I'm a clinical person, or oh my God, please don't, which is where I'd be. But you can go ahead and search there. New graduate is what you'd look for if you are looking for a nursing role with us. And then you can hit search. And it will pop up anything that meets that parameter. Oh, there's nothing for Mercy right now.
Let's go. Eliminate.
Just go by company. There we go. You can see all the ones that are out there. And then what's great too is if there's not a position here today that is what you're looking for, you can actually go there under the search where it says get notified and sign up today for push notifications to your email. This will let you know, though we'd love you to check our website every day, this will let you know as soon as something meeting your specifications becomes available so you don't have to. And that way it doesn't get lost in some spam folder or something like that. So you can always go ahead and create an online profile. It is a rather lengthy application, and it is 7 pages, and we admit that, but it's because we'd like to know as much about you as possible. We ask you to enter in that information. Don't leave it blank and just upload the resume. A lot of folks do that, and it's difficult in our system. But in taking the time to fill out that application, once you've read that post and are confident you meet those qualifications, you can really share who you are through those cover letters and through that information, and we'll be able to review that. You only have to upload that application one time. Simply change out the resume or the specific cover letter if you are applying to multiple positions. So if you want to cater it specifically to that role or job. And we do review all of our applications individually. We don't use an algorithm like some larger organizations. We have recruiters like myself who, commit time every day to reviewing apps and going through them. So if you think people don't look, I promise we do. So typically we review those within about 3 days of when someone will submit them so that we can make sure we're timely and respectful of your time as well.
I think we actually just went through some numbers, and Kendra, do you remember the specific?
Of how many applications we've reviewed. So we had done a snapshot, and it was between March 1st and October 1st, and we had over 5,200 applications come through for review.
Yeah. So yeah, and those are 13 recruiters, a few sourcers, talent acquisition specialists like myself, and managers that are reviewing that. And so it's a phenomenal team that we have, and some amazing people to do that work individually. But it brings about a different service that we'll be able to speak to a bit later.
Absolutely. Another point to that, Chris, is that if you are unsure of what you want to apply to, we do have some open recs that are general, where a sourcer may contact you and speak with you about what you're really interested in, or we will review them as part of our Monday meetings to say, okay, we've got some folks, we're not sure what they're quite looking for. This is their background. Who has some opportunities that may fit them? And we reach out. So that's another avenue, kind of like an explorations program a little bit in college. If you're unsure what you want to do, we can help you through that whole process at Northern Light Health.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. All right, so what Northern Light Health looks for, and you'll have to click through that one, Chris. Yep. So what makes you stand out? And I think you'll find this in a lot of organizations, but we really mean it when we say it. We care so much about those individuals we serve. Yeah, let's be honest, it's not 6 degrees of separation in Maine, it's 2, right? We know most of the people in the communities that we serve. Our communities are incredibly important to us. You see it in our branding, the Maine made me, Maine made us. We are just as vibrant and active in the community as anyone else. And we recognize the communities really need us where we are. So because of that, making sure we have excellent patient care, including that positive attitude, because most of the time when we're in the hospital, unless it's for some deliveries and wonderful babies coming in, most of the time it's an unfortunate circumstance. So, we really want to make sure that we're as positive as possible. We are doing the best that we can in terms of our customer service, both internally as well as external, again, that customer facing side. There's nothing worse than having a coworker who's a grump, and it just brings everybody down. We've all had those somewhere along the way. And recognizing that, when it comes to your coworkers, I think Chris said it wonderfully. We have a great team, for example. We support each other in any way that we can. And we really are dependable and reliable to help one another. Regardless, of course, that dependability and reliability, whether it's in supporting one another or simply being present in your own role, is important. You would not believe how many times we've had folks leave our organization simply because they couldn't keep solid attendance. So we do want to make sure that that is something that you're committed to, because we are 24-hour a day, 365-day a year facilities. Quite frankly, even during a pandemic, nothing really slows us down. So we need to make sure we have our employees that can support that. In terms of ownership of your job, having a commitment to doing the best service that you can, and a commitment to, just making the whole individual world of the hospital go round as best you can, recognizing you are a part of something greater than yourself. Having initiative and motivation, whether that's going through school and continuing education, or simply by standing out and maybe taking on additional roles and responsibilities, wanting to go up that professional career ladder, having the integrity that in all of the methods that you do those things, you do it in good conscience, you do it in following policy and procedures, and we are acting to the letter of the law, I guess, the best that we can, with our integrity. And in terms of your skills, of course, those skills, whether clinical or non-clinical, are highly important. One thing I will note with regard to your interviews, you may be in school right now and not working in field. You may have never worked in a healthcare setting. And whatever it is that you do, even if you're in a non-clinical side, recognize you have transferable skills. There's nothing, worse than to, under promote yourself. It doesn't matter what the particular role was, you've learned something from it, and you have transferable skills that will be helpful in this next career step, as long as you know how to reflect on those and recognize them. So we always appreciate when people can bring a variety of skills to the table, and we all can't do one thing, because life would be pretty boring. So, bring what you have and we'll make it work.
Absolutely. And just to touch another point on that real quick, I think one thing that the pandemic has taught us about Northern Light Health, if it wasn't already known, which I think most internally would agree, we have, an incredible staff, an incredible group of people all across the system at each member organization, and the flexibility that is needed during times of change to address something, as large as a pandemic, and the response thereof with malleable policies and procedures, and just, with the positive attitude and all the qualities, skills and abilities that Kendra, so eloquently shared. I think really has been demonstrated, over the last 8 to 10 months of being prepared for this moment, and continuing it through. But also for some of the more quote unquote normal activities that we have, encouraging individuals to and employees for preventative care and overall wellness. And I think that that's something that Northern Light Health has done very well, and is very persistent in pursuing greater in the future, which is also extremely encouraging, because as everybody I'm sure who's involved with the healthcare. It's not just when things go bad, but how can we prevent these things? How can we bring education to communities? How can we make sure that people are living their best, most healthy and well lives? And so that's been an encouraging part of being able to experience this journey as a newer employee with Northern Light Health. And so I just wanted to touch on that moment.
Sure. The other thing to that point too is that this pandemic has really highlighted for us the commitment to employees. And that's one thing, whether you decide to go with Northern Light Health or another organization down a totally different career path, is trying to find an organization that is dedicated to you as an individual. I've worked for some really large organizations. I worked for a Fortune 500 company prior to Northern Light Health, and my job was actually processing layoffs, and it was quite depressing. It was not the funnest job in the world. And we'd have massive plant closures sometimes of 17, 18,000 people. And it was really daunting because individuals were treated like numbers, because at that point they were. But because of our commitment, within Northern Light Health to the employee, to the communities we serve, we recognize the importance of every employee we have. So during the pandemic, one thing that has been really impressive to me, I think, is that we've not had any furloughs. We've had reallocation of individuals. We've been able to keep them in network. We have had even doctors' offices and outpatient offices that would be closed temporarily, and they helped with some of our tents and our testing sites. So really, that's something to look for in an organization when you are moving forward, because you want to know how they're going to treat you if you dedicate all of your time to them, when something like this happens. So that's a really important point. We've gone through our prepared presentation, and we have reviewed as well some of the questions sent to us of what might be important to know as students looking at different companies. But before we do that, are there any questions from those currently on the presentation or in the chat?
Yeah, so don't hesitate to ask a question there in the chat. But I had one that immediately came to mind of, given that we're in this kind of pandemic environment where a lot of things are virtual, what does the actual kind of application to interview process look like? Are you doing a lot of Zoom interviews and things like that?
Absolutely, nearly exclusively. So we, depending on the role, have always done a phone screening first, or for many of our roles, we'll do a phone screening. So that has remained the same. And then we are doing Skype interviews, Zoom interviews. Some of them, unfortunately, don't even have video. Most of them we try to, but because of capacity and network, with how many people are remote, that has been temperamental at best. So we're working through that. Other facilities, it depends on the county that they reside in. For example, A.R. Gould up in Presque Isle, because of their considerably low case volume, they've been allowed to have final candidates on site. So it does vary, but for the most part, yes.
Awesome. I think that's going to be really helpful for folks as they consider applying and just how to kind of prepare for that. The other kind of question that I had before, you dive into some of the others was, I saw a slide in there about, the possibility of internships, and for maybe those folks that are in non-clinical, with non-clinical backgrounds, what are some internship opportunities or ways to kind of get involved while they're a student?
Sure. Do you want to speak to that, Chris, or would you like me to?
Yeah, no, I can speak to some of it. And a lot of our internships are actually non-clinical as well. We've had some in marketing and in business and in finance and analytics. And so, those are, and as well as healthcare administration, so some administrative and clerical roles as well. And so some of these, you get to be exposed to healthcare in a bit of the non-traditional or non-stereotyped way. And that's important to a lot of individuals as well. There was one candidate that was able to pursue a healthcare admin internship or patient experience internship to actually get a little bit more of the administrative and clerical opportunity before they went on to pursue dentistry. And so they were looking for a little bit of that mix, so they could still have a little bit of the bedside manner along with the non-clinical aspect, which I think speaks to the opportunity and the diversity that we can provide for that experience.
We also have had students who have interest in really gaining some real life experience, I guess. So, perhaps they have opportunities to, go to their professors or go to their advisors and say, hey, I'd like to work for this organization this many hours. Contact us if that's something, that you are able to do or interested in doing. We've had folks do that up at NESCOM here locally at Husson University for some of our data and marketing, right? Some were temporary interns and things like that. They really took it as a class, and, the individual they worked with maybe had to give feedback and of course, ensure they did the work. But that's something, especially unpaid right now, that would be available or something that we could be more flexible with. We do have some paid internships as well. Some of the ones that Chris mentioned, usually posted, in spring with a June timeline for start. So that's when you'd really want to start looking for those, would be earlier in the spring.
Another point that's excellent for Kendra to bring up, but also a lot of these individuals are looked at to be hired on after their internship. And so, if you actually are looking to get your foot in the door and obtain a position, it might be towards the end of your junior year or even your senior year. It's not only an excellent opportunity, but it's a reality for a lot of individuals that come into these internship positions to then be offered a full-time position afterward in the department they're working in.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So yeah, are there any other kind of details that almost exited out of here? Are there any other details that weren't in the presentation or anything that we didn't cover that you think would be important to highlight for folks
Sure.
watching?
Sure. So going back to your point about the video conferencing, I had my little blunder, my phone went off. That's something that I recognize. So I did not follow my own rules. I have rules for doing video conferencing. And so, some of those tips and tricks I'd be happy to share, for students who have maybe never done that before in a formal capacity and what that really looks like. So, when you are going to a interview that is a video conference, really, you should treat it, just like any other interview in terms of your preparedness. You want to make sure that you arrive early. You want to make sure that you dress professionally, and you want to make sure that you are not feeling rushed or overwhelmed at that point. There are a couple different ways we can do that when it comes to video conferencing, and the biggest and most important in my mind is dedicating. I know many of us who have not worked from home before, or who maybe weren't expecting it in March, worked at their kitchen table for 3 months. I'm going to go back to the office. I don't need to buy a desk. I'm going to go back to the office. I don't need to buy a desk. So how many times did we see, somebody's dishes maybe sitting behind them because they didn't have a dedicated space? So that's a really big thing when it comes to your interviews. Dedicating space can help you in a couple of ways too. Foremost, it can make sure that you have cleaned the area. See that I don't have anything behind me that's distracting or that may draw the attention, because just like in interview, us recruiters aren't perfect. Interviewers aren't perfect. We get distracted. We can have squirrel moments where we, decide to look at something else. So you want to make sure that you are conscientious of those things. Also, you want to make sure that your family is aware that you're having the interview, because a lot of us are home right now. So if you have the door closed, and maybe even put, a paper on the door. I have one on the back of my door that says, video conference in process, so that they don't come knock. They don't maybe be really loud because they know this is going on. Normally, I wouldn't have my dog in my room. She's sitting here next to me. But if you're having an interview, probably shouldn't. Pets, children, other family members can be a little unruly sometimes and unpredictable. So you don't want that to draw away from the message or the limited time that you have with your interviewer. Other things, of course, looking and dressing professionally. Just because you're doing a video conference does not mean this is FaceTime, hanging out with your friends. So you got to make sure that you dress professionally and don't get caught off guard, because you might have to stand up abruptly if that dog starts barking, or if something happens, and you don't want to be caught, in a precarious position where you're not really dressed as well as you thought you were. There are great examples of this, if you want a good laugh, on YouTube of newscasters who are caught. Some who are caught, gentlemen sitting in his boxers, or I've seen one in a kitchen. A woman was doing a weather display on her island, and her husband comes walking behind her in his boxers and no shirt. And he's on national television. So you got to be really careful. So just make sure you still dress professionally. And then you want to make sure, just last but not least, that nothing in terms of audio or visual, or even your network connection, any of those things are going to limit the time you have to make that good impression. So make sure you have a strong internet connection. If other people are home, and sometimes it's temperamental, ask them to not maybe be playing Xbox Live or whatever it is that they're doing that pulls that bandwidth from you. So, just a couple things that can really help. Because decisions are being made quickly with result of, us doing this digitally, and maybe, not having to take as long to schedule an interview because it's an hour of your day at home versus taking the time off from your job to go travel somewhere, to go somewhere. It takes longer in a live interview. We're getting through applications faster. So maybe instead of sending the note cards with a thank you, send an email. That's another thing that'll help.
Yeah, and I think also, even though millennials and Gen Z, iGen, or really any cohort could benefit of just practicing. Find a friend that, could practice with you. Just make sure that you're familiar with the process, because you see Skype, you see Zoom, there's Microsoft Team Meeting. There's a number of different platforms that we're seeing, employers utilize. Typically, we're using Skype or Zoom, but that's just building familiarity and making sure that you understand the platform and how to use it, how to sign in, and you can make it fun. Make sure that you're practicing. Ask some questions. Get some answers, and then make sure that your environment is good, so that you can address all the things as Kendra mentioned could be a distraction to somebody interviewing you, and that practice could mean the difference between a blunder and really nailing the interview and making sure that you secure the position.
Right. Another great point to that practice. One thing I always have is what part of my toolkit I call it, is the app Trello. I love it. It's an application. It's on my website. By no means do I get anything for saying that about them, but they're awesome. And it's online sticky notes and bulletin boards. And so what I did when I was getting ready for interviews and getting ready for, really going through the application process is writing down things that I had done really well. Team projects that I had worked on, my participation, times that I had saved a ton of money for a company, outstanding achievements, and I put them in categories. And I was able to see them and really familiarize myself with these scenarios where I was quite impressive, not to toot my own horn, but things you want to know on the fly and you want to remember when you are preparing for an interview. So you can keep doing that and growing that list as you have these achievements. So you're not trying to pull things from like 3 years ago out of your brain by the time you actually get there. The beauty of it, especially working in online, video conferencing, is you can have that up on your screen. So you can remember and see those things and know what you want to bring up or maybe talk about. Leave yourself notes, because as long as it's not, loose sticky notes on your desk that you're going, what was I saying? As long as you have it in front of you, no one's going to be the wiser. So take this as an advantage at that point. Don't just look at video conferencing as, something detrimental. There can be a lot of pros to it.
Yeah, I think, you know, given this environment, that's such sound advice of kind of making the most of just being online and having all this technology in front of you is that you can, you know, you can have your notes right next to the person that you're talking to and no one will know. And yeah, certainly the some of the tips that you gave around kind of being prepared for those Zoom interviews can be really critical in this moment where there is not a whole lot of in-person interaction. So making the most of those moments is key.
Yeah, the thing is that regardless of the circumstance, whether it is the current, ongoing pandemic and this moment, or others, when it comes to your career, and like I had said, we've gone through some of the common questions that students were asking. One really had resonated with me and stuck out, and it was, when you are looking at your roles or your careers, what's one thing that was important to you starting out, or what would you recommend to someone starting out? And, for me, I would say plan it like you would a road trip. Have a general idea of maybe where you want to go. But recognize that something slight along the trip, say you're going cross country from Maine to California, something may change. So at first you lay out your options. You look at what's the biggest priority for you, whether it's fuel efficiency, whether it's time and speediness of getting there, whether it's cool stops along the way. You might be looking at your career of, I want to make the most money, I want to have the most flexibility, whatever it is. Prioritize those, get a general idea, but recognize you might be in Omaha and blow a tire. Well, what the heck, you don't know what's going to happen. Might take an extra day or two, or how do I make up for that step? Your career's really, really fluid, but the biggest thing you can do to stay positive about it is recognize there's learning in everything. There's a silver lining to everything. And I'm a natural optimist, but truly, if you can take those moments and recognize, even if you learn something you hate, like, my God, I hate that I don't have AAA because in Omaha, I had to do this myself. You can learn something to prepare you for the next step and learn something about yourself. And that's just as valuable as learning what you love is what you hate. So really, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect you have to have your dream career tomorrow, because in 5 years, your dream career might be something totally different. And if it's not, then you're a step ahead of most of us, and that's awesome, but you'll be even closer to getting there.
Yeah, I think that's such awesome advice. Chris, from your perspective, any kind of pearls of wisdom for students that are just about to embark on the world of work after they graduate?
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I've never been too proud to accept any position. Whether that was starting out as a playground administrator for my local recreation department, or doing landscaping, apprenticing, carpentry, electrical. But moving on through my career, I remember, from work study, internships, volunteer opportunities. My background actually began in sports. But I had changed my major actually as well, to touch on a couple different questions, from marine biology. I was adamant that I was going to work with sharks, and so then I realized, man, I got to pump the brakes. I would have to work with algae for like 10 years, and I don't really want to do that. So I switched to sport management and business. I switched to something that I felt very passionate about, and then I started really trying to work different opportunities. So I was, at one time, I was working for a sports retail company. My work study was actually doing play-by-play commentary for field hockey and for men's and women's lacrosse. And at the same time, I was a walk-on member of the basketball team. So, I was trying to diversify what I was able to do, so that even though it was in the same industry, I had a taste of different ways that I could be a part of that industry. And that actually grew into obtaining a master's degree. And to my next point, not being afraid to take a leap of faith into an unexplored territory for you. So, I ended up moving to Kansas for 2 years to actually pursue a master's degree. They had offered me, a phenomenal opportunity to teach to be a graduate assistant in an intramural department of a grandeur size, 300 plus events each year, 70 work study students underneath me. Shout out to Fort Hays State University. But they're phenomenal. And so, it was a blessing. And then I was able to also be a registered official out there. And then, trying to get my foot in the door, it moved me towards becoming a student activity and residence director for a small private college here in Maine. And I was, able to do that for 3 years, moved into admissions, loved the recruitment life and being able to travel on somebody else's dime. Saw California and Texas, a plethora of places across the U.S. But ultimately, I decided that it was time to settle down a little bit and just bring it home and try to be a little bit more in the state of Maine and try to pursue a doctorate at the same time. And so my journey along the way has always just been seeing opportunity, seeing what those opportunities can bring about. To Kendra's point, what I can learn, how it can diversify my own portfolio, how it can grow and challenge me. A lot of individuals will fail to see opportunities to fail as opportunities of growth, and staying stagnant or staying comfortable. Whereas that may not be the best opportunity for them to grow and develop professionally and personally.
Yeah, I think that's such important advice, particularly given this moment of just kind of all of the shifting circumstances and how different positions may not be there by the time a student graduates that they were kind of banking on, and just sort of being able to roll with the punches and be able to kind of adapt and change with the shifting environment. I think that's awesome advice. So
yeah, the flexibility is going to be really important.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. So I'm mindful of time, and I just want to ask, is there any kind of last piece of advice that you might give a student who's interested in applying to Northern Light Health, and anything that they should be thinking about as they kind of embark on the next steps?
Sure. I would say the first thing is, if you're, in terms of advice, is to reach out. Whether you are, we've had sophomores call us, people who are in their senior year. I've actually gotten calls from grandmothers of students, which is interesting, to try to find out more information and what's available. Because the biggest thing is that you don't know what you don't know, right? A child doesn't understand quantum physics, or doesn't even know to ask about quantum physics. Sometimes if it's not right in front of us, we may not always see it. And same thing goes with like social media pages. We have our careers website, but if you're not following us, you won't know. And if it's not in the feed, you won't see it. So reach out, connect with us on those platforms, call us, email us. And whether it's for today, or we're building a pipeline with you and helping advise you of maybe experience you should get before you take that role, or how we help get you there. We're always happy and happy to be helpful and to, and they're going to start barking. Oh no, a date. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to mute. Sorry.
That's a great point. And also, along that, I've always been in the mantra, there's no such thing as a stupid question unless it's unasked. And you can't find that answer out if you don't ask. And we at the talent team, it's a phenomenal grouping of people with just a wide variety of experiences and knowledge. And no matter what it is that you're looking for in healthcare, whether it's clinical or non-clinical, that's more traditional stereotyped position, or if it's, something more unique. I already mentioned like financial analytics, but also, an environmental specialist and housekeeping, how incredibly important, foundational positions like that are, food services, et cetera. Those are all opportunities that we do have at Northern Light Health. And so if you're exploring those options, just trying to get a foot in the door, even do part-time per diem work while you're in school, reach out, let us know. If you want help with resumes and cover letters and see how to do those. Yes, you have your school counselors, absolutely. But if you have connections here as well, we're more than happy to help as well.
Or tell your professors and we'll come into their classes.
That too, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to thank you both so much for taking the time to chat this afternoon. And I learned a lot from both of you, and really excited to share this with students. So thank you again for taking the time, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. You too. We're happy
Absolutely.
to be
Thanks for
here.
having us. Appreciate
Yes, thank you.
it.